Long, long ago, in the faraway land of Elador, there lived a kingdom of animals. The most respected of all the creatures in Elador was the duck. Indeed, this story is about a duck. A duck that looked like any other duck, but who knew what only some ducks would come to understand many, many years later. This is the story of Darcy. You see, Darcy grew up the same way as all his friends did. He went to school every morning, learnt to hunt in the afternoon, and went home with his mother in the evening. But day by day, life was becoming harder for Darcy. Something about him was different, not right. One day, his hunting teacher was showing him how he could eat the prey directly after catching it, and asked Darcy to do it himself. But Darcy wouldn't do it. You see, Darcy didn't feel like a duck. He couldn't relate to the other ducks. In fact, he'd pretend to be hunting just so that he could hang out with his real mates, the fish. The fish were scared of him at first. A spy in our midst, they said. But then they grew to like him. He did fish-like things. Well, Darcy's parents began to notice this. At first they kept quiet about it. After all, he was just young. But as the days went by, he was becoming more and more fish-like. So they consulted the expert on such things, Professor Quackenboim from the Ministry of Degradation. He was gravely concerned. A duck, indeed a duck from a reputable family, had become so perverse as to associate itself with fish. Now, ducks, as we mentioned before, were the most respected creatures in Elador. For a duck to engage in degradation would not only ruin that individual's reputation, but it would be a black stain on the entire nation of ducks. There was only one punishment fit for degradation. The duck had to be eaten, alive. Darcy was given 30 days to correct himself. If he was still found to be fish-like, he would then be eaten by the chief duck whilst Professor Quackenboim read a lecture on the importance of recognizing degradation. This was serious business. Such a ceremony had occurred only twice before in the history of Elador. Darcy was in deep trouble. But then, Darcy had an idea. The punishment only applied to ducks. All he had to do to avoid it was to become a fish. So he started planning it out. He needed a doctor who would support his cause and be willing to perform the operation. He also needed to find a representative among the fish who would present his cause to the head fish and allow him to integrate in their society to avoid prosecution in his own. A simple two-step plan, but one that relied on the decency of those involved. In Elador, there was an anonymous doctor referred to as Cack. He regularly performed illegal operations such as implanting fertile eggs for females who lacked this capacity and would therefore otherwise have been prosecuted. Nobody knew his identity, and examinations were conducted with a blindfold. But one thing was for certain. If there was anyone who could do this, it was Cack. So Darcy approached Cack. He found the task funny and said that for ample remuneration, he would do it. And this was the last thing that Darcy knew in his life as a duck. 2 days later, and Darcy was roaming freely around the depths of the lake with his real friends. And among these fish was one very special fish. The fish who'd supported him throughout his whole journey. Accepted him for who he was from the very beginning. A fish called Fanny. Fanny loved Darcy, and Darcy loved Fanny. And together they decided to embark on a very special journey, one that would change the way that ducks, fish, and all other animals thought about their existence. A journey that would take a lifetime, but would do justice to who they were as individuals. But that, my friends, is a story for another day on the Duck and Fish Show.